Now, what I've got here, following on from the last video where I stripped the internals out of this RB.310 voltage regulator, what I've done here is prepared it and just loosely fitted the new solid state regulator. So in the last video you will have seen I was just left with this burst chassis all stripped out. Now what I've done is I've removed the cutout contact post, drilled those rivets out, left one in and utilised the other drilled straight through to attach this wire to make contact with this. The other two holes that were left from the securing the bobbins at the back, I've used them to terminate the other remaining wires, and that's the earth terminal, the black one, and all that is detailed here actually on the component, so it's pretty straightforward. You just have to have this handy so you can check a reference which terminals are which. Now I had to use one of these solder crimps because of the small size, this small screw. I don't actually have any pidge crimps in that size, so I just did that in the garage and put a bit of heat shrink over it. You're really not missing much by not having seen me solder a crimp. So now all that's left to do really is to make up the connections, secure this, and that will then be ready for fitting. I'll just clean it up a bit as well before it goes in, give it a wipe over, brush all this rubbish off it. So what I did also is I lined up, marked out some holes, drilled these two holes to secure the unit, made two rubber buffers for it to sit on so it clears these screw heads, and also there'll be a bit of ventilation round the back. I drilled a hole here and put a grommet in it for the wires to pass through. So with all that in place and with all this concealed in the back, it will look exactly as it did before, which is what I was trying to achieve. So all pretty straightforward. It should be quite a neat job. So now what I'm going to do is just finish crimping these off and make these connections. I've got a spring washer there, always use spring washers. So there's only two wires left, and these crimps are both the same size. You will see the actual crimps are far too big really for these wires. They're meant for much thicker cable, but the ring end is 2BA. Now that's all I've got to hand, so although not really the right size for the cable, miles too big, but it's what I had in the garage, so that is what I'm using. I also prefer those ratchet crimping tools as well, which give a much better crimp. But again, in the absence of a pair of those, this is what it's going to have to do. So I do that twice, once at the top and once a bit further down. And you just push enough wire in to get the conductors protruding outside. Just make sure they're visible. Inspect it, give it give it a pull. That's not going anywhere. Same again with this one. As you can see, all this has just been trial fitted beforehand, but it's all come together pretty well. So pop that wire in there, just so it appears. Take it in the tool there, just loosely secure it, pull the wire back until there's just a few strands visible, and then crimp with one hand until you can't move the wire. It's got it, and then give it the full force. And once again, just beneath that. There. So there we go. That's definitely got that. Next step, check on here which colour goes on to which terminal. So start with yellow, and that's on D. D being the, whoops, D being the right hand end one, so that's this one. Yellow to D. Let's get that on, push this through from the other side. Making good use of those holes from the which were securing the bobbins. You'll see I've got a washer on there just to spread the load on this fibre. I think it's fibre resin, fibre, what is it now? I forgot what it's called, this stuff. It'll have some sort of trade name. I have to get this right. Resin impregnated board, I think is what it is. Very common in electrical components. Certainly of this period. When you drill through it, it gives off quite a peculiar smell. So I'll just loosely secure that, because I want to rearrange the wire to its best position, make it nice and neat, make sure it's not going to get trapped anywhere, chafe on anything or interfere with anything. You'll notice I'm putting the flat side of the crimp down. I've also cleaned up these terminals, so we've got a good conductive connection. Screw that on like so. And then I can just rearrange it. You can see how they fall more or less naturally into place anyway. So I'm pretty happy with that. None of them will be chafing against anything. They're not tangled up. So now it's just going to be a case of tightening these down. So I'll just hold that with my hand. Hope the crimp doesn't go anywhere. I can feel the nuts spinning. I'll do the other one. don't want to over tighten these things. I mean, they've got to be secure, but we don't want to over tighten them. Otherwise there's a risk this could crack. That's also another good reason for using the washers, because it spreads the load as you tighten. So it spreads the load, so you're not concentrating all that force on one small area. How is it looking now? Pretty good, I'd say. Just get the spanner in there just to hold that and tighten it up. Yep, that's done there. Next one. That's not going any further. Give them a wiggle. Yep, they're going nowhere. I'm happy with that. It's for good measure. Oh yeah. Very good indeed. That is what I would call a sound electrical and mechanical connection. So they're all connected up. I'll just check again before I secure this. So we've got brown to bat positive, which is B, our leftmost terminal. So brown is going to there, B. Yellow to D, which is the rightmost terminal, this one. Yellow to D. Green to F, which is the one in the middle. Green to F. Yep, and that just leaves black, which is earth. Black to earth, and that will be secured to the car, and the frame which this is secured to. You can see this is completely electrically isolated with these rubber washers, but when that's attached to the car, this will earth through the chassis, the frame of the car, to negative, because it's negative earth. So that's that. All we've got left to do now is secure the unit, and these were the only things that were supplied with the regulator. Just two long screws and nuts. As I said, I've made these cork rubber spacers just to clear these, so it sits up there and it clears those, and also gives a bit of space around the back, because I don't know how hot these are going to get, if they're going to get just warm, or I can't see it getting roasting hot, because the electronics don't like to be roasting hot, but ventilation is a good thing. So I hope these videos are educational to anybody who's considering going down this route with the charging system. The lazy way out, or you know what a lot of people say. Well, it's not really a lazy way out, but I suppose it's lazy of lazy thought. People just say, oh, chuck an alternator on it. Well, that's not always the answer, because one, you have to do a lot of reworking of the engine components. The fan belt might not fit. These generic kits you get now are, you know, sometimes of doubtful quality, and there's no saying that the alternator won't become faulty. I'm sure many of us have been there before with faulty alternators, so they fail and become faulty as well. But I was, as I said, really pleased to have discovered you can get a solid state regulator which fits in perfectly and you wouldn't even know it was there. How's that looking now? Pretty good, I'd say. So just pop that in there. Pop them in the holes. Always measure and measure again before you actually start drilling, because you can only drill the once. That's gone through like so. Now if I can just get these tiny little nuts started. I don't think that's going to fit, is it? I should have brought a spanner for that. That's an oversight on my part. But I can sort that out afterwards, just as long as it's being held there. Secure that rubber buffer, we don't want that twisting round. And I can feel that tightening up. Yep. Let's try it with this one. Let's put a finger on the rubber buffer there so it doesn't try moving, it's spinning round. How's that looking? Perfect. Perfectamundo. As you can see, none of the wires are strained here. They're nicely held in by that rubber grommet. Fortunately, the wires exit this unit that way, so that was ideal. They just go straight through, so they're not under any strain or anything. So there it is. Very pleased with that. Really neat looking job, though I say so myself. So all them are tucked out the way. That'll be held on there once I put it in position. Plenty of clearance with the lid on. So that is what it will look like, and from that you will not be able to tell it's even there. Perfect. So the next step is to fit this thing and give it a test.